welcome to the Russian non-league football podcast. My name is Dima and we talk about Belarusian football, not our topic again. I need to say a huge thank you to our sponsor, Total Football Analysis. Total Football Analysis is an online resource where you can find many things about tactics, analysis, scouting, coaching, recruitment, and more. You can read it free for some parts or pay not a big sum for all access. Visit totalfootballanalysis.com for all information. You can support us via PayPal. Every donation is appreciated. You can find PayPal information in the description of the episode. We decided to move to particular stories of Belarusian football, as many other podcasts make shows about Belarusian results. And so today we talk about FC Vitebsk. It's episode 5 and once again it's all about our guest and his story. You know Neil Holloway from Cambridgeshire well, as it's the second appearance on our podcast for him. And of course you may see his Twitter account. Its link is NF Holloway space Neil. Neil is very active on Twitter with many views on football that still lives on TV during coronavirus lockdown. It's worth to follow his Twitter. A link for Neil's Twitter is below in description of the podcast. In the last episode 4 part 2, Neil told us about Tajik football. But also Neil is connected with Belarusian football. He watched many games from the week 1 back in March. His favorite club is FC Vitebsk, and you may notice it logo of FC Vitebsk sometimes on his Twitter profile pic. Not so many Vitebsk fans from all the world, and Europe especially, as other Belarusian clubs have. There is one English language Twitter account, named as Vitebsk English Chapter. Their link is Vitebsk FC UK. They have more than 40 followers and many are Ipswich Town fans. What is interesting, as Vitebsk is a city also with mechanical engineering. It's also nice to see that official FC Vitebsk Twitter account started to write in English. The link is FC space Vitebsk. They're quite active and talkative here. As for me, I can describe FC Vitebsk as not a bad team in the Belarusian Premier League right now. They have some good results and some not good results. Now they situated in the right of the middle of the league table, so they are 8th of 16. It's really 50-50 team, and historically they also been more middle team rather than bottom or relegated. I wasn't interested in Belarus before these coronavirus times, and only one Vitebsk player that I knew or I had opportunity to hear his name. He is Daniil Chalov, elder brother of Fedor Chalov. Fedor, 22-year-old, he plays for CSKA Moscow and Russian national team. Fedor is very promising. Crystal Palace wanted to buy him with £25 million offer, but CSKA did not want it. Daniil is 25-year-old and he is not so valuable, but he is very active in media. He opened his own clothing store. It named it as «Ничего обычного», or if we translate, nothing ordinary. It's clothing for footballers or people who play football everywhere. Clothing usually with most famous quotes from football life, and as I see, here is free delivery in Russia until June. With Daniil Chalov defender, another most recognized Vitebsk player, most recognized for Russians, is Artem Gurenko, midfielder who is elder son of Sergei Gurenko, now ex-Dynamo Minsk manager. Sergei Gurenko played for Lokomotiv Moscow a long time. Well, I need to say goodbye to you until the next episode, and let's listen to Neil, who talks about how he became Vitebsk supporter and about how Vitebsk played and will play this season.
So, why do I support Vitebsk? Well, it's an interesting story, but not really football related. I used to live in Moscow, and some of my friends were students from Vitebsk. And one weekend I went up there. It was winter, so there wasn't any football on, but I ate a lot of machanka and draniki and drank a lot of vodka and had a really good time. So that's why I decided to support Vitebsk. The other team I probably could have supported was Dynamo Brest, because I lived in Kiev for a long time, and it was when Hacharidi and Milevsky were at Dynamo Kiev. But I didn't really want to support one of the big teams, so I settled on Vitebsk. Also, I really like the look of the ground. Obviously, I haven't been there yet, but I really like the look of the ground, with the stand is very unique on the one side of the ground. What do I think of the results and the games so far? Well, the whole league is very unpredictable, and Vitebsk are no different to that. The only results that seem to be sure are getting a win against Smolovici and Belchina, which Vitebsk already have done. But they seem to win a game and lose a game, so it's quite inconsistent. In recent weeks, some of the games have perhaps been a little bit more interesting. I thought the draw against Slutsk, I thought they played very well. I thought Nazarenko in defence played very well, and they were unlucky to not hold out for the win. The most interesting game was the one against Dynamo Brest, where Diego went down rather easily and Hacharidi got sent off for flicking out at him with his foot. There was a lot of controversy about that. The referee being suspended was one thing that they talked about. Hacharidi getting fired was another thing that was talked about. But it was a 1-0 victory for Vitebsk, with Nicolescu scoring the penalty late on. Also, the Isloch game was one that was really disappointing, because it was a chance for Vitebsk to be... I'm not sure if it was top of the table or because of the Slutsk result they would have been second, but it was a chance for them to really climb up the table, and they didn't show up at all, and Isloch beat them quite easily in that game. The last game was also a very interesting game, but also very disappointing in that we took the lead against Slavia, but then Slavia made the game. Slavia took the lead, sorry, I'm getting confused. Slavia took the lead, and it was 1-0, and then Vitebsk played really, really well in the second half. It was 1-0 at half-time to Slavia. Vitebsk played really, really well. They scored a couple of goals, and with 10 minutes left, it looked like they'd won the game, but within the last 6 or 7 minutes, I think it was, Slavia scored a goal that was due to a defensive mix-up, and then they got a penalty, I believe, and it finished 3-2 to Slavia. As I'm an Aston Villa fan in England, it was all very familiar, because we tend to have played really well and then lose games in the last 5 to 10 minutes. if there's any Arsenal, Spurs or Liverpool fans listening, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about when we've thrown away Leeds very late on to lose to them. So the next game coming up for Vitebsk is Shakhtar Soligorsk. They've didn't start off brilliant this season, Shakhtar. They also had some problems with the manager and the players not getting on, I believe. But the last week or so, they've really changed and really got some good form, and they were expected to finish towards the top, probably not top, but towards the top, and maybe getting the Europa League. And in the Cup semi-final, they'd already lost 2-0 to Dynamo Brest in Brest, and then they won that game 4-2, getting 4 second-half goals after being 2-0 down at half-time. They did go out of the Cup on away goals, so they didn't progress, but I think that game really gave them confidence, because then in the next game they absolutely smashed Isloch, so it's a bit worrying what they'll do. I think that Vitebsk, who do usually, although against Slavia didn't particularly have a very defensive style, do defend quite well, and I think they'll do better than Isloch, who were very open, did against them. My prediction, though, unfortunately, I think it's a 1-0 win for Shakhtar. The form they're on at the moment would suggest that they might have a little bit too much for Vitebsk. Over the season as a whole, I expect Vitebsk to finish sort of in the middle section of the league, the top half. Teams that I think have looked better, obviously Torpedo and Slutsk are doing really well. I'm not sure if they'll win the league, but I think they'll finish above Vitebsk. I also think Isloch and Shakhtar will finish above us. And Dynamo Brest and Bate, they started off quite badly, but I suspect that they're going to improve and will also finish, if not top, near the top. And then I think Vitebsk will finish in the positions below that. The players at Vitebsk, the players that I've enjoyed watching, Pavel Nazarenko in defence. And although I've said Vitebsk are a defensive side, he's a full-back who really likes to go forward, and I quite like him. He's a bit of a maverick, because he does go forward so much. He hasn't really shown that much up front when he has gone forward. He does put in some quite, let's say, vigorous tackles as well. So, and he's not the biggest of players for a defender either, so he's quite interesting to watch. Obviously, the winger Diego Carioca from Brazil, who signed this season, is also a very good player. I think when he has a good day, he makes it really hard for defenders, as we saw against Dynamo Brest. And Ion Niculescu is another player that I really enjoyed watching. He's got 3 goals, although that includes penalties. And he's very fast. He's got a good shot on him. The only problem is that he's actually on loan from Shakhtar, so whether he'll be playing on Sunday, I'm not sure. Let's hope he is, and let's hope he stays at Vitebsk as well. 2 other players to mention are Daniil Chalov and Yevgeny Klopotsky. Yevgeny Klopotsky and Daniil Chalov in the 2 centre-backs. They're sort of the linchpins of this team, and if they play well, the other team are probably not going to score. As I've said, my prediction is 1-0 to Shakhtar, unfortunately, and that's all for now. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.